Hello once again. I have quite recently uploaded a game where I played the spike opening 1G4, and in that video I mentioned that in my opinion Black's second move should have been something else. I mentioned this to my opponent and we decided to have another game, and I'll show you this game now. It's quite an interesting one, and I hope you get something out of it as I did. Well, the spike, of course, is the absolutely outrageous G4. Now, this is exactly the way that the other one went. D5 is also a possibility, and I gave a little bit of analysis in that video, so if you want to see what that involves, check out the other video unless you already have done so. Now, in this position, you would expect bishop g2, but I pushed the pawn on, and in the other game, Black took it. Now, in that video, I suggested that, in my opinion, it's better to occupy the center here. By way of a backlash, I suppose you could say, White is taking the flank, so Black responds in the center. So, in that video, I did say that if my opponent had played that, I would play h4, like so. Now, what is, of course, pretty obvious here is that if Black plays h6, like this, he is threatening to take back, and win White's rook. And that is in fact what he played. Now, I had analysed all of this, and I'd more or less decided to play g6, which is pushing the pawn on. But I decided not to at once, and what I did here is so reminiscent of the other game. I played d4. Now, of course, we're lending support here to this g-pawn, so that should Black take, we can take back with the bishop and cause Black a few problems. So how did he respond to that? Well, he played bishop to here. He's not wanting to try and do anything in the center at the moment. So now I decided it's the right time to play g6. Now really Black has no option here but to take that pawn, because otherwise on the next move White is going to play g takes f7 and really ruin Black's kingside. Should he advance this pawn, it's extremely difficult for Black on his kingside. So he did take it. That doesn't look terribly attractive, and I don't think that it is. I'll leave you to be the judge. So how did I continue here? Well, I took this pawn, like so. Black could take here. He chose not to. I don't know whether it's the right decision to leave taking that, or whether it would be preferable to take it at once. I'm not absolutely sure on that. Again, you be the judge of it. What would I have played if he had taken that pawn? I probably would have brought the knight out to f3, and he would, of course, either have had to have covered it with the g-pawn, which is not such a good idea, it would be blocked in, or retreat it. But then I have a semi-open h-file. What he did, in fact, is he played knight to c6, attacking my pawn on e5. And I played knight to f3, simultaneously covering this pawn and this one. So just take a look at that for a moment. Black's next move is pretty understandable. He wants to get rid of this rather irritating for him knight on f3. I played here. Yes, the bishop has made it to g2. So what did he do? Well, like I indicated, he does want to get rid of this, and so he gets rid of it. And of course, the correct answer is bishop takes f3. And what white is doing now is he's homing in on this pawn. Black, of course, can take here, but white has the d pawn. This pawn, of course, is attacked. Did he take it? How did he play here? Just take a good look at it. What would you do in that position? This, of course, is a target, and so it will prove. Well, he did take on e5. There doesn't really seem to be anything wrong with this. Well, I took here, but not with the bishop, as he probably expected, but with this. Now, of course, we are really going down here, and we're not only threatening to win this, but if we didn't do something, we'd be threatening to win the rook as well, because the queen is backed up by the bishop. So how did he respond to that? Well, he took the bishop with check. And now, of course, white is compelled to take back with the queen. Otherwise, if you take with the pawn, you lose your queen. So we don't want to forfeit the queen. We'll play to here. Now then, that is a very interesting position. Just have a look at that for a moment. How did black proceed here? White's pawn structure is better than black's, there's no doubt about that. And at the moment, material is dead even. Well, he took this pawn. So he wins a pawn. Or does he? How would you say white should respond to that? Well, I'd anticipated this, and what I played is queen to here check. And of course, black realized that I'm threatening to win his bishop on h4. Because even if he puts the queen in the way, you can take back with either the queen or the rook. So black has no option but to take the bishop back. Unfortunately, like I suggested earlier, this pawn is weak on g6. And so, quite rightly, it comes off. And material is once again even. But black is in check. And not only would it be dangerous putting the king in front of the queen, but this pawn is hanging. So, of course, he had to play here. As can be seen from this game so far, we're only 13 moves into it, unlucky for some. And already black's position is not quite so good, is it? The one thing that is to be noted in this spike is that, like in a lot of these very open games, so typical of the mid-19th century, white doesn't always manage to castle, but that's no big deal. The king is perfectly safe where it is. So how does white continue here? Well, I continued like this, and as can be seen, we're wanting to bring this rook across and do a little bit of damage down the F line. We're no longer interested in the H line, at the moment at least, but the F line is of interest to us. So what does he do? Well, he plays here. What he's planning on doing, of course, is doubling up on the D line, and he's simultaneously attacking the rook on h3. So, as indicated, we play here. Check. So how does he respond to that? Well, he sees no problem with bishop f6. Do you? You don't really see that there's any problem with it, I don't think. Or do you? What happens now? Well, of course, white anticipates that this rook will be coming like I indicated. So we want to have a little bit of protection on d1. So I place this here, bishop f4, and there's a very good reason for selecting that square. Can you see what that reason is? Well, the reason is that we're wanting to coax black into playing this. He previously couldn't do that when his bishop was pinned. Do you see the rejoinder? Well done if you did. It's this neat little move, and that is checkmate, because it's double check. So he realized that he couldn't very well take that pawn on b2. So what did he do instead? Well, he doubles, which is fair enough. He's just piling up the pressure down there, and he's threatening to come to d1 and deliver checkmate himself. So what we do is we play here. Now white is threatening to castle on the queen side. Of course, it still takes here bishop d6 mate. So he plays here, knight e7. So white temporarily withdraws the queen to there. Now, what does black do here, would you say? Just take a look at that. And what should he do? The problem for black is that white now, like I said, is threatening to castle and possibly bring the other rook down this way, and that would cause a few problems for black. Black's king is in a very precarious state. There wouldn't be any problem having the king here and the pawn and the bishop lining up, because you can easily defend. Black doesn't have enough pieces to cause white too many problems. But what he did is he went ahead and took this pawn. Now, that is a grave error of judgment. He thinks that he can now safely take the pawn on b2. But not so. How did I respond to it? Well, of course, with the knight in the way, there's no double check. This is why he thought that he was safe. Can you see how white should reply here to win this game on the move? The rook is all priest, but that's not a problem. Now, you'd think you need the bishop here to cover the knight, otherwise the queen comes out. Well, ordinarily you would. Well, congrats if you've seen it. It's this neat rejoinder here, bishop e5. And what we're doing there is we're breaking the connection with black's bishop on b2. He can no longer get back to f6 to defend. So a neat one, isn't it? Check. So what does black do there? Just take a very close look at that. Well, of course, black realizes that if he plays king to g8, it's queen f7, backed up by the rook, king h7, and queen g7 mate. He only has one other suitable move, aside from putting the queen in the way, and that is to put this knight here, and he's promptly going to lose it. So black loses a piece instantly. Now, how do we take it? Do we take it with a rook or do we take it with a queen? Well, check this out for yourselves. It is preferable to take it with the queen, because if you take it with the rook, let's just take a look at that. What does black do there? Well, what he can do, of course, is he can play here. And in that position, we can't checkmate him in the corner like in the previous variation. We don't really have any means of defending properly here either, and our rook is all prise. He is threatening queen d2. That is the problem with that. So I recognised that it's better to take it with the queen, check. And what we're saying to black here is you might as well exchange queens, because if you don't, then we will. So he did. He took the queen off, and we took back. Now, as can be seen here, he is now no longer threatening d2 because it's only his rook against our king protecting it. And he's in check. So what does he do? Well, of course, should he move this way, this pawn eventually would go as well. This is what he's thinking. So he goes here. And now we come back and we mop up. And just look at that position. And what occurs to you? Well, what occurs to you is that white has just won the game. Black lost on time. This is the second time in as many games in the same opening where black loses on time. And white has 2 minor pieces in exchange for 1 pawn. And my opponent had to admit that he was in a hopeless position there. There's no difficulty in winning this game, because the easiest way for white to win, of course, would be to castle along and then bring his other rook across. I hope you enjoyed that game. I certainly am finding these irregular openings. I put a couple of shorts on with Larsson's opening 1b3 and Sokolsky's 1b4, and this on the other side of the board, g4. I think this proves that you can pay attention too much to bookish openings, and perhaps it pays to look at what might be a little bit more outlandish and just try your hand at it, especially in these games that don't last very long. And as this game, like the other one, has proven, it's the opponent who's getting himself into time trouble, and that is a good thing, not for him, but for me and you. I hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye to you.